Testing, 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 testing. James, do you have the live stream open? Live stream.
Just the YouTube link, right?
Yeah, so if you go into the Discord, it'll be in the announcement server. I just want you to check if the audio is working correctly. Should be. Should be going. Fantastic. Hello, my name's Joe, and I'm the president of Warwick AI Society. And I'm here today to talk to you about a number of things, potentially more things than might first be apparent from the title. First, I want to talk to you a little bit about Warwick AI and who we are and what we're doing. Warwick AI is a collective of students, a student-founded, student-run collective of people interested in the applications, the development, and the long-term implications of machine intelligence. We're all enthusiasts, and it's a very informal group. If that sounds like something you'd like to get involved in, and if that sounds like something you might benefit from, then feel free to jump on Warwick.ai and jump in the Discord, and let's have a chat. So, I've been thinking a lot recently about the life cycle of technologies, about how they're invented, how they develop, and how they ultimately permeate through our society to the point where they're almost indetachable from us as a species. And I've noticed a general trend here in that these technologies start out as doubted. People don't believe that these technologies can do what they purport to do. People doubt the long-term efficacy of these technologies. And there are countless examples of this. Blockchain technology 10 years ago was widely regarded as useless. The internet was called a fad numerous times in the 90s. I think even electricity had doubters at the beginning that it would be useful for anything. And then over time, these technologies develop and they become used more frequently. And there are a small number of specialists that develop the surrounding infrastructure around these technologies to the point where results are proved. And eventually you reach this tipping point. You reach this explosion of accessibility where it no longer requires experts to use these technologies. They burst into the mainstream. Think about mobile internet. Maybe if some of you are old enough, you might remember your flip phone and trying to jump on the internet there and it not quite working and costing a lot of money. And then seemingly overnight, I have 4G connection across the entire planet. Well, I've naturally been thinking about the position of artificial intelligence in this timeline of a technology. And I've been trying to figure out where we are. It's my prediction that artificial intelligence right now is on that tipping point. That we're at the dawn of an explosion of accessibility where the power that lies within machine intelligence is going to transition away from few machine learning specialists into the hands of the many. And it turns out I'm not alone in that belief. There's a concept called the democratization of machine intelligence. And that's something we're going to explore a little bit today. But firstly, I want to give you a little bit of evidence. Why do I believe this? Why do I think this? Well, in the mid-2010s, some research suggested that there were less than 10,000 people that had the ability to harness machine intelligence for anything useful. Whereas today, we have libraries like PyTorch, Keras, and TensorFlow that allow us to do more in a single line of code than researchers could do in 6 months, 10 years ago. Some of the most powerful models in the world that have been developed with tens of millions of pounds of resources and thousands of hours of compute and researcher time are now available to you on the internet for free. Let's take a look at GPT-3, which is a language model. I can give this a prompt and it will reply with human level text. If I want to write a story, I can begin to write human sounding text instantly. We've actually used this at Warwick AI to develop a system in which we communicate with scammers such that they believe that they're talking to a victim, and we can communicate up to 50 to 100 emails with scammers believing that they're talking to victims, trying to get money from them. And the power is just mind-blowing, all via a simple API request. Carrying on, machine learning at Amazon Web Services, Google, and Microsoft Azure has exploded in the last 3 years. Every single major tech company is trying to become the medium through which you use artificial intelligence. They want to be the interface between you and the things that you can create with machine intelligence. So what I want to demonstrate to you today is that this is the case. And the way that I'm going to do that is by starting from a basic web app, from a simple React app that's just been bootstrapped. I typed in a single line to create this shell. And what we're going to do is we're going to integrate some Amazon Web Services machine learning capabilities, and we're going to deploy that onto the internet in the next 30 minutes or so. I don't want you to worry if you don't understand the React code, because we don't really use React that often. The reason I'm using it is because it allows you to develop web apps really quickly. I don't want you to worry if you don't understand the Amplify integration, because it's just a medium through which we can rapidly deploy our web app to the internet and integrate some machine learning. What I want you to think about is the words that I'm saying rather than the code that you're seeing, because it might be slightly confusing. We're going to be using a library called predictions for our facial recognition. And so why don't we jump straight into that? So what I've done is I've typed in the terminal in my code editor, npx create react app face recognition. And I've created a new React app called face recognition. And that makes all of the infrastructure that I need to create a web app. And the main file is called app.js, and that's the file here. So what I'm going to do is just demonstrate what they've made for me. They've made a little app, and it's got some HTML code in it. Some simple HTML that you might have seen before. It's got a little logo, it's got a paragraph, and it's got a link. So if I go to my browser, let's go and check out what they've made for me. I've got a simple app running on my local environment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slowly start integrating some code into here. And I'm going to explain what I'm integrating as I go. Rather than typing it, I'm going to chuck it in, and I'm going to explain what I've added. So to start with, we need to do some imports. We need to pull in this powerful code that I've been talking about so that we can use it. So let's have a look at what we've got. We're importing some simple libraries like Amplify, which is what we're going to use for our deployment to the internet, and predictions, which is what we're going to use for our machine learning capabilities. And we're getting those from Amplify, and we're getting some config in. And what we're doing is we're setting up Amplify with our config and then creating this new predictions provider. So this is all sort of configuration. Let's look at what we're actually returning. Well, I want to get rid of this because this is just bootstrap boilerplate code. And I want to put something slightly more interesting in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a look at something like this. So what have I got here? I've got a simple div. I've got a title saying whose face is that, and that's going to be the app that we're creating. We're going to create a little face recognition app. And I'm taking an input of a file, and then I'm going to display the image, and then I'm going to display some links, and this will all become clear, like what this is doing in a second. But the interesting thing here is on change, when the file changes, we're going to call a function called identifier from file, and that's going to take the file and perform the machine learning. So let's go ahead and add that function. So in React, you can nest functions. So I'm just going to add my function somewhere in here. And let's have a look at what I've just added. So I've added some variables, name, image URL, and links. The name is going to be the name of the celebrity. We're going to upload photos of celebrities, and it's going to tell us who we've uploaded. So you can imagine you're watching Netflix, and you don't know who an actor is. You can take a photo, and you could upload them to this app, and it would tell you who it was, and maybe give you some links to their IMDb profile. So this function identify from file takes the file, which we've called event here, or takes the event which contains the file, and then finds the file from the event. And then we're going to do some magic here. So this is where the machine learning is going to take place. We've got this function identify from file. It takes the file. We've got the file. Now we need to do something with it. How do we perform machine learning on this? So this might be where, and you might naively think that we need to start thinking about programming our neural net and training it and things like that. Well, with Amazon Web Services predictions, you don't need to do anything like that. So I'm just going to go through this code manually. What we're going to do is we're going to call predictions, and we're going to call identify. And identify is a function that's going to take some JSON-like code. So what do we need to do? Well, we're going to be looking for entities. And there's going to be some stuff inside our entities that we're looking for. We need to give it a source. Again, don't worry if you don't understand exactly what I'm writing, because it's not necessarily important. And we're going to give it a file, which is the file that we've uploaded. So what we want to do is we want to turn on celebrities detection, which is a feature that I want to use for this app. I could do all sorts of different things here. I could plug it into a webcam, and I could point it at your face, and it would identify the features of your face. I could have a system here where I'm take a photo of your face, and I scan it on YouTube to look for videos that have your face in it. There are numerous things I could do here, but the one thing I want to do at the moment is celebrity detection. I want to take a photo and find celebrities within that photo. So let's turn that to true. So we're going to turn our celebrity detection on. Okay, so this is pretty much the code, but I also want to do some stuff with the result. This performs the machine learning. I need to do something with the result. So .then, when this API request finishes, I'm going to get a result, and I'm going to use that result to do some stuff. So let's go and have a look at what I'm going to do. I want to get the celebrity data. So this result is going to contain all of the information that I get back from Amazon. They're going to chuck me a bunch of information in JSON format, which is a sort of data structure format, and I need to dig through it to find the information. So I'm going to create a new variable called celebrity data, and I'm going to set that to the result. I'm going to get the first entity from the result. There's going to be numerous entities in the photo. There could be 10 celebrities, but I'm just going to get the first one for the sake of this argument. And I'm going to get the metadata from that entity, if I can spell that correctly. So we've got the celebrity data. Now, what I want to do is I want to set my variable name to celebritydata.name. So we've now got the name stored in a variable. And I also want to see if there's some URLs related to this celebrity, like a Wikipedia page. I want to find those too, and Amazon will give me those. So let's check if there are any. This is so hard. So if we've got some URLs, then we're going to set our variable links, celebrity data. We're going to set links to And that is, unfortunately, pretty much the machine learning part done. And that might be disappointing if you're expecting to come in here and program a neural net from scratch. But the reality is that today, you don't need to have the knowledge that you once needed to have in order to use machine learning. And there are pros and cons to that, which we're going to get into. So let's save this, and let's go and check out our React app. I think because everyone's in here with their phone internet on, it's probably going to be quite slow. So what I might do is skip showing it on my local environment, push it to the internet. So we can go down here. And using Amplify, like I was talking about earlier, it's really good for deploying web apps to the internet really fast. So if I type here in the terminal, which you can hopefully see, if I type Amplify publish, previous to this class, I did Amplify configure, and I set up the account, and I did Amplify init to create a new Amplify directory. And then I added Amplify hosting, which just adds web hosting, and that took about a couple of minutes to run, but it was just 3 commands. So now what I can do is I can type Amplify publish, and what Amplify publish is going to do is push that to the internet. I ran that before also because it takes about 5 minutes or so. So we can go to the published web app. You can see here when I deployed the web app, and we can go and try it out. So let's have a look at if this is loaded. Okay, localhost is still. Here we go. Okay, so do you remember when we added that file box? I now have a ability to upload a file. So I could upload one of these, and oh, hello, live coding. Let's have a look.
You need to check to see if entities exist.
Let's have a look. Consolidated result.entities. Mm-hmm. Aha. Well spotted. We almost had a half-an-hour debugging session live. That would have been fun, huh? So let's try that again. So we can see here that we have this upload file, and then it's going to call identify from file once I've uploaded the image. So I want to upload this. Let's give it an image. So you might not know who that is, but it's going to tell you exactly who that is. We can go and have a look at that guy. This is the guy from The Big Short, which is a movie that you might have known that predicted the 2008 financial crash. So fantastic. Well, let's go and have a look at this in action. So what I want you to do is grab your phone out and take a little photo of this guy. And you probably don't know who this guy is, and this is why this is fun. So take a photo of his face, and then save that to your camera roll. And once you've done that, got a photo, got it. Once you've done that, open up your camera and scan the QR code, and that's going to go to the app that we just created. It's on some stupid Amplify URL because I haven't configured the URL yet, but you could easily chuck this on your own custom domain name. Now, click Upload File on the little app that we just created and submit it, and it will tell you, hopefully, who that person is underneath the photo. And then it will give you some links, and you can find out who it is. Can somebody tell me who it is? Chris Sharma, that's the one. He's a American bouldering icon. So if you're into your rock climbing, you'll know who that guy is. So what have we done here? The example I've given is pretty trivial. Like, you know, you're not going to watch Netflix and pull out dev.d2n.5. You're not going to do it. But the point is, the technology is so easy to implement that people without that much programming experience can start utilizing machine learning in seconds. that app, if I'd run all of the commands and waited in front of you, would have taken minutes, half an hour to create, maybe. And that's obviously, as I said, not the only thing that we could have created. So what are the implications of this? Well, that's what I would like to explore a little bit more in this talk. As I said earlier, this is called the democratization of AI, giving more people access to the knowledge, tools, and data required to build AI-based systems. So is this a foolproof plan? Does this sound like a great idea? I know lots of people have this idea of spreading the resources among the people in an even distribution. And that's a very attractive idea in a lot of senses. But what happens when we do this with machine intelligence? What happens when we try to distribute the power of artificial intelligence to people that do not have training in the nuanced failure modes of artificial intelligence? For example, a massive problem that we face in machine learning is the fact that they learn from the data that they're given, and the data that they're given is generally not perfect, and inherent human bias exists within that data. And so that's something that you have to look out for when you're using artificial intelligence to build systems. And generally, machine learning specialists and artificial intelligence experts understand those risks and take preventative measures when they implement systems to try to avoid bias negatively impacting the lives of the users. But if you are a biology student and you do not know that bias exists in your data sets that you're using to train some system, for example, maybe a medical scanner that takes images and identifies anomalies. If you don't understand that risk, what happens when you go and deploy that system onto the internet in a matter of weeks or months without fully understanding that? So, another point. What happens when thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people start to harness machine intelligence all in unison? Millions of people deploying systems onto the internet that utilize machine intelligence without really any precedent. We've never done that before. This is something completely new. Right now, you have to be Google to make any impact with your systems that you create. But how's that going to change when everybody has access in the same way that they have access to Microsoft Word? You could just start using no-code environments or low-code environments to create systems that have massive effects on our species. And we don't know what that's going to mean. So what are the benefits of the democratization of AI? Well, there are a few. I don't want to be all pessimistic with you. By reducing the barrier to entry, we allow a much more diverse range of people to access machine intelligence and give their own contributions to the field. At the moment, it's a predominantly white American male dominated field. And those are the perspectives that go into the engineering of machine intelligence. And those are the ideas that get used when we're implementing these systems. But what happens when you give underdeveloped countries the ability to harness machine intelligence to solve their own problems? The democratization of AI reduces the cost of these solutions. In the 1980s and 90s, expert systems were developed that cost hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pounds to implement. And although there were benefits, the cost just prohibited their use, and they ultimately died out for other reasons as well. Coming into the 2000s, machine learning systems have been developed, but they're only accessible by the most wealthy companies on the planet, the people that can employ these machine learning researchers. What happens when we reduce the barrier to entry? What happens when we reduce the cost such that SMEs, small companies, can start harnessing the power of these technologies? And third, based on these two, we can expect an increased speed of adoption of these technologies. And why is that important? Well, there's a whole lot of suffering and a whole host of problems that we're facing as a species, climate change being one of them. And by increasing the speed of adoption of AI, we might potentially be able to harness artificial intelligence for good sooner rather than later. So that's where I want to leave this one today. I expected this to take 45 minutes and we've done it in 26. So I hope that I've illustrated my point to you, and I hope that you've learned something from this talk. Thank you very much, all of you, for coming. And if there's any questions, I would love to answer them. So thank you. Cheers, guys. Are there any questions, any thoughts on whether that's what I've talked about, whether that's Warwick AI, whether that's getting involved in projects, or anything else? Then feel free to come up to the front and talk to me, or chuck your hand up. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So the way that that's going to run is we're going to put up a sign-up link in the Discord in the next couple of weeks. There's going to be 2 beginner classes, Warwick AI 101, which is a course for general artificial intelligence knowledge, so less code and more kind of discussion. We're going to talk about what machine learning is being used for and AI is being used for currently in the present and all the way into the future. We're going to talk about AI safety and the problems of ethics, and we're going to talk about the problem of superintelligence and these sorts of things. That's going to be a more kind of humanities take on the subject. And then we have another intro course, which is Intro to Python, which is sort of getting you set up ready for learning machine learning. And so that might be something that you're interested in too. So there are 2 beginner courses, and the sign-up links are going to be on the Discord in the next couple of weeks. So if you go to warwick.ai and click on connect on the Discord there, then you can go and find out. If you also want to learn a little bit more, you don't have to go to the Python courses. You can learn hands-on, because I know that some people prefer to learn hands-on with a real objective. Instead of just doing a class, you can have a real objective. And the way that you could do that is by coming to Warwick AI, going to /projects, and trying out one of our beginner projects. So there are a couple of advanced ones here, and intermediate projects, like using your hand to control a drone. That might be a little bit more difficult, but some of the other ones, for example, introduction to convnets and image classification, that might allow you to get a sort of a nice introductory feel for image classification and computer vision in a sort of instructed manner, then with a concrete end goal. It's like, okay, now that you've learned this, let's go and make this. And you can spend a couple of weeks creating a system with the help of the rest of the Warwick AI team. All of the projects team, everyone in the Discord will aid you in that pursuit. So there are a couple of different ways you can get involved, but the main thing to do is watch out for the sign-up links in the Discord, because there'll be lots of different things there. If you do want to get involved in one of these projects, if you find one that looks sort of beginner level that you would like to look at, you can click on the project here, and you can come down to join project, and that will just take you to a form where you can sign up, and we will then get in touch with you once we make the project teams and start working with people. So thank you for your question. That's pretty much how you can get involved. And any other questions? Anyone have any? Hey. Oh, exactly. Oh, they've got hundreds. If you go back. So if you like, there's not a lot that you have to make yourselves if you don't want to, but we do a lot of that still at Warwick AI. Like, we don't just do this all the time. We do actually get hands-on with machine learning, but the point I'm trying to make is that if you're more interested in the applications, so I'm a software engineer. That's my main thing. I love using artificial intelligence in production. So I spoke earlier a little bit about using GPT-3 to interface with scammers. That's a project I work with at the company that I work for, and I don't understand fully the inner workings of GPT-3, but what I do is I use it in a massive scale, sending tens of thousands of emails to fraudsters a day, because I'm interested in the application. So if that's you as well, then this kind of thing is potentially interesting. If you go back here, these are all of the services that you can use from Amazon on the left here, and then the ones on the right are Google services. For example, speech to text, text to speech, natural language processing, all of it done in the same fashion that I showed you, where you just have that easy function, predictions.identify. All of these can be used in that fashion, and they can perform astoundingly complex things. So Amazon, if you wanted to do full face recognition where you had a camera on the door and people walking in, analyzing their faces as an identity, you could use Amazon recognition, which is midway down the list there. Free, yeah. And if they do end up costing because you're using them so much, then Warwick AI will help you with the costs to use these systems, because we have AWS credit and things available for students. No problem. Yeah. Document AI. So what I'm showing here is just all of the different sort of services that are now available to allow you to use machine intelligence in production. And sorry, Document AI is just one service by Google Cloud Platform. It says tap into your unstructured data. So what it does is it takes old school pieces of A4 paper, and it allows you to scan them and upload them to the internet, or upload them to digitalize your documents to increase your efficiency. So that's something that companies might use to transition from an old school business model into a sort of digitalized method. And that uses computer vision to scan the images and turn the image into text. So that's just an example of one thing that you could do in a really easy way. So you can find out more about that by just, if you go to Google Cloud Platform, then you can go and find out loads more about that, or jump in the Discord and you can have a chat about it with the rest of us. Cheers. Any other questions about Warwick AI or anything that we've spoken about today? Oh, hello. Didn't see you over there. I didn't see you over there. What's your question?
When you have like deeper or larger models trained, where do you train them? Like cloud-based training or?
So usually, especially with the given GPU shortage recently, you'd use the cloud because you don't want to set up that infrastructure yourself. So there are an increasing number of providers that allow you to train on their services, AWS being one of them, Google Cloud Platform being another one. So there are ways that you can do that. And as I said earlier, Warwick AI has the infrastructure and the resources to aid you in that. So we have access to TPUs, for example, tensor processing units that you can use if you have some intensive project that you want to work on. And we also have GPUs available via AWS and via Google Cloud Platform. So if you do have projects that need infrastructure that costs a lot of money, then that's kind of something that we would love to help you with. So yeah, if you'd like to, if you have an idea related to that, then you can submit a project and we will get in touch with you and help you to develop that from just an idea into potentially a startup, or develop the code into potentially a project that can be used in research or as a startup and then beyond. So yeah, we have the infrastructure if you need it. Fantastic. Any questions? I've been neglecting the YouTube people. I'm going to go and have a look at them. They're all good. They're chilling. Fantastic news. If there's any other questions? Yes.
Are there any leadership opportunities or other certifications?
Yes, there are indeed. So in the next couple of days during Freshers Week, we're going to be recruiting our fresher reps. And fresher reps, we pick one. We interview, and we pick one from each subject to be the representative for Warwick AI within that subject. And the responsibilities of those fresher reps change depending on the subject. For example, if you're in philosophy, you might be asked to do some research on, for example, AI governance or AI safety or something like that. If you're in computer science, you might be tasked with leading a project team of 5 people and developing some technology there. If you're in maths, it might be more research-based, etc. So we're going to be recruiting our fresher reps, and there will also be elections coming up. The elections are at the end of term 2, so that's in the end of this year. But throughout the year, as we expand and need new exec to fill new roles, there will also be mini elections throughout the year. So keep a lookout on the Discord for the announcements, and there will be opportunities. Hello. No, you don't. So we cater to all sorts of different levels of experience. So if you have a lot of past experience with machine learning, then that's fantastic. But if you don't, there are so many things you can get involved in that don't require any programming knowledge or machine learning knowledge. So yeah, there's a whole host of different things that you can work with. What's your subject? Okay, cool. So you are tech related, but say it was something completely unrelated. There will be an intersection between your subject and AI, so we can just slot you into that intersection and do research. You can do research there, and that would be fantastic. So you don't need any. Any questions? Oh, that's a great question. That is a brilliant question. How could AI help history? Put me on the spot there, haven't you? So, for example, document AI scanning. I'm sure there's vast libraries of undocumented literature from thousands of years ago, hundreds of years ago, that needs to be digitalized so that it's not lost in the future. So, if you wanted to say, let's think up an example. If you wanted to do some research on some very niche topic in the past, and you didn't know which of these thousands of books to look through, then you could create a system that digitalizes those books and uses computer vision to find, say, key phrases. So perhaps a date, like, something like that. And then
With AI, is it possible for the computer to understand, not like understand like us, but in a way understand the information and then give it more relevant?
Yeah, so understand is a really interesting word, and we could talk about that all day, but we won't. Understand in the context of, like as humans, no, but understand in sufficient detail to give you really useful results. So let's go back to GPT-3, for example. So if we went to summarize for a second grader, this is just a little prompt that you can give it, and it's a scientific passage about Jupiter, and it understands this passage sufficiently such that it can summarize it in for a 5-year-old. Is it a 5-year-old? Second grader, so a 7-year-old. It can summarize it in sufficient detail that a 7-year-old could understand this. So you could say that that's understanding. I don't know if it really depends what you mean by understanding, but yeah, it's enough. So the way that this works is it just knows the statistical relationship between words, and that allows it to identify like the space within its brain that it should be looking for connections, and it allows you to come up with useful results. So understanding is interesting. It doesn't understand, but it understands sufficiently to give you useful information, if that helps. Yes.
Just building on this, if it understands the statistical variations of words, don't you work a bit less well in history when you're like hundreds of years old?
Yeah, exactly. So this was trained on the internet, and so the data that is available on the internet determines what this knows. So exactly, yeah, in the historical context, it might work a little bit less well. I haven't tested that, so I don't know, but it's very sort of internet based. Have you heard that copy pasta that's like this one?
Yes.
If you click submit on that, oh no, it didn't do it this time. Let me try again. Cool. Do your trick. Oh, okay, still not doing it, but usually it rattles off that copy pasta because it's been trained on it so many times that it understands that relationship. So it's very internet centric. It's very Reddit, Twitter sort of centric, which causes it to come out with a whole lot of hate speech quite a lot of the time, which isn't great. And when we use this, we have to think about that. But yeah, you're right. You have a great point. Any other questions? Any thoughts on anything, whether it's GPT-3, Warwick AI? Any thoughts? No, 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 no. Fantastic. Well, I want to say thank you to everyone for coming along. And if you want to get involved, you know the place to go. Thank you so much for coming. And yeah, I hope to see some of you around in the Discord and in person. Cheers, guys. Thank you. Hiya. Fantastic news. That's really, really kind of you. Thank you. We'll see what we can do with these. They might be useful for something. Have you used them for anything interesting before?
About 10 years ago.
Okay.
One in particular was the first thing I tried to learn how to code on.
Fantastic.
Forgot about it.
Yeah, okay. Brilliant. Well, yeah, we'll see if we can do something useful with them, hopefully. I hope so. Thank you very much. Cheers.